Begin this morning with Utah Governor Gary Herbert. Governor, as always, great to have you on the show. Thanks for making time for us.
Well, thank you for the invitation. Always happy to be with you, Glenn.
Glad to have you as well. Let's start off, well, we're going to talk mostly about your State of the State address, your 11th and final. As you delivered that, did you ever pause? Was there any surreal moments where you thought, wow, 11 times and here we are with the final one?
Actually 16 times if you count the 5 times as lieutenant governor. So it's been a common thing for us to go through every year. And as it's my last time to do that, it was a little bit bittersweet. There's a new chapter of life ahead of us, but we still have a year to go to finish up this term. And a lot of good friends and a lot of good memories, and we've accomplished a lot of good things. Not without challenge, not without a few stumbles here and there, but kind of a bittersweet moment for me.
Yeah, I would imagine that would be. You gave a nod to the people of Utah, saying we wouldn't be where we are today without the good people of Utah. Talk a little bit about that, and why was that an important part of your message?
I think we sometimes forget what a great state we live in, mainly because we have such wonderful people. They are very charitable. They do care about their neighbors. They volunteer. We're #1 in all those categories nationally. People really are engaged in trying to make things better for others outside of their own family. So we've had great success. We are very similar in our values in this state. The homogeneity is unique to Utah compared to other states. And really the secret sauce we have for our success is the people of Utah. And because they are good people, they create people that represent their views that they elect. Those people then create policy that reflects the views and the policy and principles and values of the electorate, and consequently we're having great outcomes. It really is a combination of good people, which is the foundation that elect good people to be their leaders.
I would add to that a very welcoming state. That's something else you addressed, the modern day pioneer. Talk about that and why that was important for you to not only talk about, but to acknowledge those in the crowd.
We've become a little bit too harsh when it comes to some of the issues surrounding refugees in particular, immigration in general. There's certainly a right way and a wrong way to do these things, but we need to be a little bit more, I think, compassionate. We are a state that was founded by refugees. We probably understand this better than most. And so I think we need to set the tone, and we have been a leader in this area, which other states, after we've made statements, have kind of followed us in that direction. And so, again, I think we have a lot of people that are, the diversification of Utah is happening. They're a major part of our fabric today, and they are contributing in very positive ways. And so we ought to thank them and welcome them, and we did that last night.
The latest statement you made to the president, you said, we want to continue welcoming refugees. Did you ever hear any follow-up from him on that?
I've not, although I'll be meeting with him here in a couple of weeks back in Washington, D.C., and so I'll have the opportunity to have that discussion. What we were saying in essence was, regardless of what other states say, because he was trying to give states more flexibility, more of the decision-making capability, which I understand that's not a bad thing, but we as a state are willing to do our fair share. Refugees are running away from terror. They're trying to find a safe haven, and the closer to home they can find it, the better. But these people that come to America have been vetted for nearly 2 years, maybe longer. And so when they come to Utah, they are vetted again, so we get 2 bites of the apple, and they engage. We have about 75,000 refugees that are part of our fabric and doing good things, contributing to society. We have the opportunity to take at least our fair share of the growing people out there, and the America ought to do that also.
You said that excellent would be a gross understatement in defining our economic situation at this time. Talk a little bit about that and how you've seen that evolve over your decade in office.
Well, it's always hard to give a grade. You know, how do you say how good we are? In school, we give A's, B's, C's. But for those who are exceptional, maybe even beyond, we say A+. And that's really where Utah's at right now. We're not just exceptional. We are more than exceptional. We are thriving. We are doing great things beyond what we probably imagined 10 years ago. It's not just that we're #1, but #2 is really distant. They're not even in our rear view mirror anymore. So we ought to be not prideful about it. We should be humble about what we're doing, but understand what got us there and maintain and continue what we're doing. It comes from many different areas. We've got good policies in place, good people, but we have efficiency in state government. Our government is more efficient than it's ever been. We actually have fewer employees running state government today than we did 19 years ago. I mean, think about it. Government is a monopoly. Government doesn't make anything. We provide services. We have labor intensive is what we do. And yet we've shrunk the number of laborers so that we've gone, in my watch, just on my time, it's gone from one state employee in 122 residents of Utah to now it's 1 in 155. And what that means, we're saving about $400 million every year ongoing in accumulation. It's really billions of dollars that we've saved the people by not keeping up with inflation and reducing our laborers.
You mentioned this in your speech as well. Even though we are doing well economically, there are some, not all, that are benefiting from that necessarily. Affordable housing, a really huge issue. I look at my children and I wonder, how are they going to afford to live in the state of Utah? That's a big concern for myself and parents. I'm sure you look at the same thing with your grandchildren.
Exactly, and real estate, which is my background, I understand the cycles it kind of goes through, and we're in an upcycle now. And we need to get together. I've talked to the League of Cities and Towns, the Association of Counties, our local government, the zoning ordinances, our building codes need to be looked at. Can we in fact have higher density and still not sacrifice quality? Smallness doesn't have to be, not adequate. We can make smaller homes that probably are very comfortable. I just came from a seminar in California where they talked about villages being created for homeless people, and really small homes, but very attractive and very functional. So there's probably ways that we can in fact increase the affordability. Sometimes the fees that we charge, impact fees, are higher. We're getting more like California. That's a concern for me. Density zoning, building codes, all those need to be looked at to see if we can find a more affordable way to provide housing.
Sticking with the California theme here, you also brought up California gridlock and not wanting to get Utah in that same place down the road. I visit California and I'm always happy to come back to the state of Utah after getting stuck on the interstate there and whatnot. We're looking at 5.8 million people here in the state of Utah by 2065. How do you keep that from happening?
Well, you need to plan ahead. Clearly what we're doing with Envision Utah, with our Quality Growth Commission, is trying to anticipate the growth. It's going to happen whether we like it or not. Some of it's internal growth. Although our birth rate has slowed down some, we still are having babies, so there's going to be internal growth. And people are wanting to come here because of the great quality of life. They like living with the people of Utah. They're great neighbors. They're optimistic, hopeful, friendly, and there are job opportunities. So growth is going to happen. We need to find ways to accommodate it, anticipate it, and have no diminution of our quality of life. We are on track to do that. We did the largest grassroots survey in the history of America with our Your Utah, Your Future survey. 60,000 people nearly participated and give us a blueprint of what they would like to see, the people of Utah would like to see in their future. We're going to try to follow that blueprint and anticipate the growth and accommodate the growth. You
talked about the need for sound tax policy still moving forward. We already know the tax reform bill was repealed. You've already signed it. That's a done deal. In your next year, do you see addressing that at all, or is this something the next governor is going to be taking up?
As I've said before, it's probably time to not only push the reset button, but the pause button. I think right now we're in a place where we need to take a deep breath, count 10, step back, take a fresh look. I think the challenges of having optimal tax policy are still there. They have not been resolved. We need to get input from the public to say, well, what would you like us to do? What do you think would be the right thing to do? Because every economist, CPAs, people who are tax policy experts, all are saying you're going to have to bend the curve some way. You can't just keep kicking this can down the road.
You spent a better part of last year doing that, though. How much more time can you spend getting public input and coming up with a plan that everyone can come together on?
Well, obviously we didn't do enough, and we didn't do it well enough. We didn't explain ourselves well enough, and maybe not got enough input. There may be parts of it that are salvageable, some parts that are not. We need to have that ongoing discussion. It's not going to go away. We can't solve it probably this year at all. I think it would be foolish to try. But in subsequent years, again, a new governor will maybe have some fresh ideas and perspective, maybe a new opportunity. think the public needs to have this digest and understand, what are the ramifications of tax policy, what's good about what we have, what do we need to change in the future. We all have an opportunity to listen and learn from each other. I talked about better communication, but I emphasized better dialogue. That's a two-way communication. We can't be just explaining all the time. We need to listen and dialogue back and forth so that we listen, hear, and understand.
All right, we're going to have to end it on that note. We'll catch up with you again at the end of the session to see how things wrap up in your final session.
Well, I can hardly wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be the best year ever, 2020.